Hi, my name is Irene, and in this video, we're going to be building this lighting fixture in Revit. Now, I want to be very clear, I am not building this lighting fixture for manufacturing purposes, so it's not going to be 100% accurate. I want to approximate the appearance of this lighting fixture for the intents and purposes of using it in an interior design or architectural project. So with that out of the way, let's get to it. All right, so now that we're in Revit, because we're going to be creating a lighting fixture, the first thing that we're going to do is choose a family template, specifically a lighting fixture family template. Now, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing this in metric because that's the unit that I like to work with. And then I'm going to be searching for metric lighting fixture. Despite the fact that this is a pendant light, I don't want to use the ceiling-based option. The reason for this is that if you choose that option, then you're going to be in this situation where your geometry, like your architectural shell, will need to have a ceiling, as in the ceiling category in Revit. And the thing is that, like, sometimes in projects, people will have a top, but that top isn't necessarily a ceiling category. It might be a roof. It might be a mast that is actually a wall that is bending. So in general, I try to avoid the category-based options, just because I find that they usually come to bite me in the ass later. So I'm just gonna go with metric, lighting fixture, and then open. Okay, so while that is opening, let's take a look at the lighting fixture that we're gonna be building, which is this guy. So this lighting fixture is a monstrosity. It is quite complex. There's a lot of detail going on. So again, first things first, we are not building these lighting fixture for a manufacturer. So I'm not going to model each and every petal. Absolutely not. So what we're going to be doing instead is creating an approximation. So basically, the first thing that we need to do is figure out like how we're going to build this. So immediately I can tell you that like basically I'm going to have like one object that is going to be this bulb element here, and I'm going to have 3 of them. And then within each of these like bulb elements, we're going to have these kind of like crown of leaves. And then we're going to have these kind of like bulb of petals. So the globe is going to be this like glowing thing with like petals. And then we're going to have a cable that goes up to our ceiling. Okay. So with that out of the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by modeling one of these guys. I just need one to begin with. Now, I checked if there was a brochure with either CAD drawings or anything else that I could use that is not pretty pictures, because pretty pictures are very nice to get the vibe of the lighting fixture, but they're not very helpful if you're looking to model it. And unfortunately, all I found was on the brochure, they have just like the general dimensions of the lighting fixture, which again, not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. So it is telling me that the lighting fixture has a diameter of 14 inches and 18 inches height. Let's see some of the pictures. I just want to see if this makes sense. Not entirely sure what those dimensions are referring, because this does not look higher than wider. Oh, eggplant. So that's a different one. Let me see. There has to be another one. Yes. Oh, they have different flower shapes. That's why. This is the one that we want. This one is, oh, okay. See, this makes more sense. 26 diameter, 10 inches height. That number I can understand. Okay, so with this information, we are going to go into our Revit family. Now, your Revit family is always going to start with a light source, which for the time being, we're just going to ignore. And in fact, what I like to do is take the light source and just like move it out of these axes, remove the constraints. Sorry, I'm going to move my head out of the way. Remove the constraints so it's not like in the way. And like if I want, I can bring it back afterwards. But to begin with, I like kind of like clear vision for my model. Now, what I'm going to need to do here is these axes, you're not supposed to like move them around, because these are your placement axes. So when you insert a family, this is kind of like where you're holding it. So what I want to do is I want to build my family around these axes. So what I'm going to do here, because I don't have an image that I can use as a reference, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use reference planes to give me kind of like a guiding, like bounding box, that when I'm creating my model, my geometry, it should not get outside the box. So I'm going to create 4 reference planes in this top view that are going to correspond for my left side, my right side, my front, and my back. Okay, and we said that the diameter was 26. 26 divided by 2 is 13. So I basically want 13 inches from this guy to the center and whatnot. So I can go here's 13 inches. That's another nice thing about Revit. It doesn't matter what unit system you're working with. You can type in any value that you want. So as long as you're using the correct suffix, Revit will convert it for you. So if I type 13 inches, see, Revit knows what to do. Let's move this guy a little bit further out of the way. So this is basically my lighting fixture has to fit within this radius, okay? And now I need the 10 inches for the height. So for that, I'm gonna go to my front view. I can't see anything consistent. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna move you here. I don't mind this guy being aligned. That's fine. I'm gonna leave it. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to go again, reference planes. And let's say that this time I'm just gonna measure it downwards. Sure. And we said that the height is 10 inches. So this is gonna be 10 inches, enter. Okay, yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so let's start building our lighting fixture. So the first thing that I wanna do is build these kind of like crown of like leaf petal things on the top. Because this is the most complex part of this lighting fixture because I actually, like you can see that there's a lot of petals, there's a lot of complexity, and I do wanna show that a little bit. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go on my, what's gonna be the best way to do this? I think front view might be the best way to do this because basically these petals are gonna be kind of like a two-part. Part one is going to be simply an extrusion that is just gonna have like that curvature. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a void from the top down to kind of like cut them into that like leaf shape. So usually when I'm building with Revit geometry, if I can get away with making something as an extrusion, I will do that because extrusions are the easiest thing. You can think about extrusions as like a cookie cutter. It's just a shape and then you cut it. And again, I'm not gonna do every single petal because like, absolutely not. But I'm gonna try to get pretty close. So we have these reference planes here that are basically telling me these petals that I will create should not exceed the location of this guy or that guy. So I'm gonna go to create and I'm gonna go extrusion. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go through the center and I'm gonna use the spline because that's gonna give me a little bit of a quirkier shape. So I'm gonna go here and let's go above. So I'm gonna go like this and I'm gonna go like that. And again, like you can make them as funky wonky as you want them to be. There you go. So that's my shape. Now I'm gonna use the pick line plus offset option to give them a thickness. Now, because it's glass, it should be pretty thin, maybe like 5 millimeters or 2 millimeters. Let's see. 5 looks pretty thick. Let's do 2 millimeters. Yes, that looks nicer. And now let's connect the two splines. Oh, that has an offset. There you go, no offset. There you go. And then there you go. Okay, beautiful. And when I finish, you will get something that looks like a 3D view, like this. Yes. Okay. So as you can see, like this has the funky shape, but it doesn't have that leaf shape. So that's what my void is going to be for. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my top view. And what I want to do is actually push this guy a little bit far back. And I'm just going to calculate like how thick I want these petals to be. They don't look very thick. They look kind of like skinny. So let's say it's going to be something like that. Again, because this is an organic shape, I'm not super concerned with precision. Like, for example, you can use these numbers to be like super precise, but like you don't have to. So let's say, sure, let's leave it there. So what I'm going to do now is from the top view, I'm going to use the void tool to kind of like stamp the shape of the petal out of these like extrusions. So again, you can think about it like you're just cutting a cookie. So I'm going to go void forms, extrusion, and then does it have any waving? It has a little bit of waving, but I think I want to keep this portion pretty simple. So instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little arc like this. And then, I don't know, man. Maybe let's do an arc that is like, there we go. I want it to end right on the axis, something like that. And then something like that. Yeah, like maybe I vary a little bit with the shape on the top. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to bring it here. And then this, let's say that this petal is going to be the skinny one. And then this guy is going to be the big one there, something like that. Sure. And then when I say yes, oh, cutting through in the wrong direction. I am going to edit that cut. And then what I need to do is I need to make a box because basically what we want is we want to cut the excess and keep only this. So you need, so like the square here, this rectangle is my initial void, and then I'm leaving an exception within the void. That makes more sense. Now, you cannot see anything yet because see how the void is showing orange? When a void shows in orange, this is what's happening. The void is not really interacting with anything, so Revit doesn't know that it's supposed to cut anything. So all I need to do is bring my void to the same height where my petal is. And I'm going to use the cut tool. So to use the cut tool, you're going to find it here on the modifiers, and it's cut geometry. I'm going to click on my void. I'm going to click on my petal, and whoa, look at that petal. Very pretty. Now, when it comes to assigning materials, you can choose if you want them or not to be parametric. When I see these brochure, it seems that these lighting fixtures come in different materials, so like different kinds of glass. I'm not sure though, so I'm just gonna assign a green glass, and if I want, I can later change it within the project. So I don't think that the materials of this geometry need to be parametric. So I'm just gonna select the geometry, and I'm going to assign a material. There are a bunch of glass materials in Revit, so I'm just gonna go, let's see, do they have a green glass? No. So I'm gonna choose these bronze glazing. I'm gonna bring it here, and I'm actually going to, rename it. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the easiest thing to do. So I'm gonna, oh, why is my rename? Sorry, my rename options are showing up like on my second screen. So I'm just gonna click rename, and I'm gonna call it green. Oops, green. And I'm just gonna change this color to like a greenish green. Something like that, sure. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that looks decent. Okay, perfect. So now my lighting fixture is going to be green glass. If I go to realistic, I should be able, there you go. Beautiful. Awesome. So now you may be asking yourself, okay, so do I need to do this now 7,000 times? And the answer is no, thank God. So what we're going to do is once we do this first guy, again, this is going to depend on how much variability you want to have like in your pattern. The more variability you want to have, the more you're going to have to repeat this trick. But if you're not super interested in like all of the variety in the world, then you don't have to. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to select these two elements. So remember, you have the shape and you have the void. I'm going to see if I can group them. Is it going to let me group them? And this is going to be, let's just call it petal. Okay, and what I want to do first is I want to mirror it, so I have, again, a little bit more variety. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to mirror based on a draw-in line, and that draw-in line is going to be a 45-degree. There you go. Oh, if this happens to you, basically what's happening here is that a geometry is cutting something that it shouldn't be cutting. So if you want to fix this, all you really need to do is go into the void that is causing the issue, and you're going to use the option uncut geometry. So click on the void, click on this guy, and there you go. Now it's no longer cutting it. Beautiful. So again, sometimes this will happen because basically Revit decides when it wants to follow certain rules or others. So you just have to roll with the punches. So I no longer need these reference planes because I already have kind of like the boundary of my petals. And now what I want to do is I want to have many more of them. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the array tool. I'm going to make sure selection. Oh, because these guys are going in different reference planes. That's fine. Don't worry. You'll see what this means. So this basically means that I need to say this is why we try things. So basically what's happening here is that Revit is telling me, let me see if it's going to let me do it now that it's not arrayed. There you go. Revit was just basically telling me, like, I don't really know what to do with this group. It's not going to let me do an array of a group in these conditions. Why is it like that? I don't know, man. Revit is weird sometimes. But now it's letting me do it. So sure, let's just roll with the punches. I'm going to go my array. Quick key is AR. Don't worry about that preview. Again, like you can always use uncut to fix those gaps. And what we want to do is, number one, we want to make sure that we're working with a radial array. Number two, we want to make sure that we're working with a first and second, not first and last. And number three, we want to make sure that we use the place center of rotation so we can make sure that we're using the center of our axis. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to come here and say, I don't know, like 15 degrees, maybe. Put it there. And now that's going to generate 3. We're doing first and second. I think it's not rotating my voids at the same pace. That might be a problem. Instead of me having to kind of like cut each petal, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create one cookie cutter that is going to cut through all of them. So I'm going to go to my void, and I'm going to create a void extrusion, and then I'm just going to follow all of the petals, right? So I can do my arc here. And again, all I want to do is make sure that it's getting close to that center. So let's say something like that. And then I'm going to bring it here, and then I'm going to do something like that. And then I can also like array this guy. Like I don't need to like copy it one by one by one. It's not gonna, well, it's not gonna let me array here. So let's see, can I mirror it? I probably can. Mirror there. Okay, so that's two of them. Now let's say mirror it again. I'm always gonna try to do things as lazily as possible. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so I have 4 of them. I'm only missing those 2. So let's see if I copy this here. Can I rotate it and then place? To be honest, it would have probably been easier if I would have drawn them by hand, but like I can't be bothered. Let's do this last one. So let's say something like that. And then let's do something like this. And then I'm just going to copy those guys. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go mirror like this. And then I'm going to mirror it again. So I'm going to mirror this guy like this. And then I'm going to select these 4. And I'm going to mirror them like this. And now the final thing is that I need to use the trim tool to get rid of all of these intersecting lines. So I can go trim, trim this guy to this guy, that guy to that guy, this to this, and so on and so forth. So again, you can spend as much time on this detail as you want to on join. I don't need this to be the most complex detail ever. I just want my general shape to be met. Oh, and once again, I made the same mistake. I'm going to make the box. There you go. And then yes. And then again, it's not cutting because this guy's way, way down compared with that guy. So we're going to go to our front view. We're going to bring this guy up. We're going to bring this guy also up. And now we're just going to need to cut each of the petals. So I'm going to go here, cut first petal. So this guy to this guy. Nice. And I can just do the same thing. Cut. I'm going to find my void. I'm going to find my petal. Nice. Cut, void, petal, and so on and so forth. We're done, people. All right. So with all of this, what we're going to do now is we're just going to, and they're already the green material, right? Yeah, glass green. Fantastic. So we have, this is the hardest part of the lighting fixture, which is that like petal structure. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do this, where's the reference image? These kind of like bulb. And the thing with this is that I'm not actually going to do the petals again. That would be really, really tedious. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do kind of like a not full sphere. It's going to start like a sphere, but it's going to be a little bit more of a bell. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to apply a material that is going to do that like petal shape. So we're going to use material cutouts to create the illusion. And then within that, there will be a solid sphere. So to do that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the revolve tool on a front view. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go create, and I'm going to go to revolve. So the axis of my revolution is going to be this guy here. And I'm going to lock it if I want to. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with a curve, or let me actually start with a sphere, just so I have like a reference. So let's say that this sphere is going to be like the part that is going to have the light in my lighting fixture. I'm going to move it a little bit down. And then because it's a revolve, I need to cut the sphere in half. So we're going to go SL to split. Then I'm going to go trim, 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 trim. There we go. Say yes. And there's my sphere. Now, because it's a sphere, I just need it to be light. So for that, there is a material within the glass category, which is just like illuminated glass. And I am going to select that guy in particular. And I'm just going to apply it. Okay, and okay. So, is my Revit gonna crash? It better not. You know what? Now I live in fear. Save as family. I'm gonna put it in my desktop for the time being, and I'm gonna name it the name of this lighting fixture. Chartreuse Blossom. Okay, Chartreuse Blossom. Okay, all right. So now we're going to do the revolve that is going to be more the petal. And the reason that I like to create the sphere first is because then it gives me kind of like a guiding line to follow. So I'm gonna do my axis again, exactly the same. But now for my boundary, I can start here from like the center, if I can find the center, and I can just try to follow, but like not 100%. So in some areas, it's gonna bulge a little bit more, and then in some others, it's gonna bulge a little bit less. So see, it has this like more whimsy shape, so to speak. I'm gonna use my thick line. I'm gonna give it an offset of, I think we said 2 millimeters, and now I'm just gonna offset all of these arcs. There you go. And I'm just gonna cap it at the bottom and the top. And I'm gonna say here, and I'm gonna cap it also here. All right, and I'm gonna say yes. Profile must not cross the axis. Oh, I think I canceled. Where is it? Oh yeah, it is crossing. It should never go beyond the axis. Like that. Okay. Perfect. Now it did do it. See? So now you have this like beautiful shape. And what's going to happen is that the petals themselves are not going to be modeled. Instead, we're going to use a material for them. So for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply, and again, this material is also not going to be parametric. Instead, it's going to be similar to my green glazing. I'm just going to come here to glass, and I think there's a white glass. I can always duplicate materials if I want to. So again, like, you don't have to work with the materials from the AEC. I'm working with them just so there is something for me to show. So let's say that for this one, I'm going to use the glass cast clear, and then what may happen is that later I might make it less clear. So it's a little bit more, color tinted, opaque, depending on what is the nature of the lighting. But again, the other problem that you have when you're doing materials for something like a lighting fixture is that you're not really going to be able to see it when you're modeling the family. You're only going to be able to see it when you render that family, because it is attached to the rendering properties. It's glass, it's light, like you need all of those things to come together. So let's say we're just going to go with these glass cast clear, and then later I can change it if I want. I can change, see, like roughness, relief, if I want to change anything. So I'm going to go apply, I'm going to go okay. And I am going to come here, and now what I'm gonna do is, this is gonna be like my base light. So I'm gonna finish for now by bringing my light source back into the lighting fixture. So I'm gonna go back to my top view, and remember this guy. So now this guy's gonna come back to where my lighting fixture is. I'm actually gonna use these views so I can align it to the center point. So I can go align, and I can say this guy to this guy, and locked. Lock, and then I'm gonna also do it, I think it's already, yeah, I need to align it to this top view here. It's not showing on the front view, so maybe on one of the side views. Yes, align this guy to this guy, and it's already locked. One thing that I do want to do is I want to move it down. So I'm just gonna drag this down a bit. There you go. I want it to be more like that. Now you're getting this message, which is basically telling you that the lighting source is inside geometry. Don't worry about this. I mean, you do have to worry about this, but think about it this way. This message is simply telling you to be aware of the fact that lighting sources are sensitive to geometry. So if your light source is inside of a geometry that has a material applied to it that is solid, light will not be able to go through. So the rule here is that a light source can be inside of geometry as long as that geometry is either transparent or translucent. So it will allow the light through. And that is the case here, so I'm not concerned. Now, finally, when it comes to the light source properties, I'm not going to be messing up with any of them. So light source properties are on their light source definition, and that is like the emission, shape, and the distribution. And in this case, because it's supposed to glow in all directions in that way, kind of like cast through the glass, point and sphere works perfectly fine. So now let's address the elephant in the room, which is that we need to have 3 of these guys, but we only have 1 light source. And the thing is that in lighting fixture families in Revit, you are allowed to have only 1 light source per family. So I cannot come here, take my light source, and go CO and copy it. It's not going to let me. So the way that we're going to be able to build this lighting fixture that has 3 elements is by nesting them. Now, very important, for this lighting fixture to be manageable and be editable within our project, you need to nest it within another lighting fixture. And you're going to see why in a second. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save my flower lamp thingy here. I'm going to put it on my desktop, actually. I'm going to call it bulb. Yes. because I'm going to create a new lighting fixture that will be the actual chartreuse, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to go File, and then I'm going to go New, and I'm going to go Family. And again, we're going to go to Metric. And then we're going to, once again, go to just Metric Lighting Fixture. So I'm going to go here. And what I am going to do is we have another lighting fixture here already existing. Do not worry about it. We will tackle this guy in a minute. So for now, I'm just going to move it out of the way. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in, I'm going to nest in my bulbs. So I am going to go here and I'm going to load this family into my new family. Error, chartreuse was automatically resolved, but require view family creator. Can't keep elements joined. Let's see what's going to happen. Place it. Is it? Okay. Oh, no, I'm in the wrong view. 3D view. Okay, well, you know, it looks fine. So, there's a couple of them that it did not clip through. That's fine. I can probably go back and just like redo those manually. I'm going to pretend it's fine. So again, all you probably need to do is go back to the original family and just create a different void for them. Again, this is not the end of the world. I'm going to leave it as it is. So what I want to do now is basically create my like distribution of like how many of these light fixtures I want to have and where do I want to have them and whatnot. So I'm going to go to my front view. And the thing is that there's not a lot of instructions here of like how they are placed, how many of them, because I think that, yeah, like you just get to place them whatever you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a cute little cluster of them. This point here is going to be very, very important. You're going to want to make sure that, see, your light source of the nested family aligns with these reference plane. So I'm going to go AL and I'm going to go this guy to that guy and locked, perfect. And now on my floor plan view, or is it on my ceiling plan view? Where am I going to be able to see this guy? You know what? If you will not work, I will make you work. Let's go to the top view. There you go. I just need to have a couple of them. So I'm going to go copy. I'm going to say you, and then I'm going to say you. I'm going to ignore this guy on purpose, and you're going to see why in a minute. So what I want to do here now is within this nested family, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to make the cables. And the reason that I do the cables only now is because when you think about the cables, all of them need to go to whatever your ceiling is. But then all of them have to go to whatever the height of these different lights is. So if you do the cable when you're doing the initial like bulb, what's going to happen is that all of the cables would be the same length. And then some of them are basically going to go through your roof. Instead here, I can control them as two different elements. So see, I can come here and say, although, yeah, in that case, I don't want these guys to be perfectly aligned with that. So you know what? That's fine. So I'm going to say you are going to be lower and then you are going to be higher. So the reason that I was saying about aligning and locking is because when you insert this family, the insertion point, like when we are setting up the height is going to be based on this reference plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this reference plane to the lowest one. I think that might work a little bit better. So I'm going to go align and I'm going to say this guy to, this guy to this reference plane. Yeah, that's going to work better. So if we come back here, okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make our extrusion. We need to make 3 of them. But before that, what I will do is I will create one reference plane that is going to be like my ceiling. And that is going to be how far my cable is going to go. So I'm going to create this reference plane. I'm going to create a dimension for it, which is going to be my ceiling height. So I'm going to create a new parameter so that way I can adjust the height of my cables based on my project without having to mess up with anything else. I can make it an instance parameter. Type parameters affect all versions of that family, all types of that family within the project. Instance parameters are changes that will affect each individual. So if you want to have 3 clusters, you can have them at different heights. So I'm just going to leave it as an instance, and this is going to be my ceiling height. Okay. And what I'm going to do now, go back to my top view, and I'm going to create a little extrusion. And it's just going to be like a little circle around the center here. And 10, sure, that's fine. I'm not concerned about the height right now because I'm going to set that height later. Wait, oh, I need to do it on the top view, on the 3D view. Then I'm going to do the next one, create extrusion. Set my work plane to be the reference level. Okay, perfect. And same thing, I'm going to create another little, oh gosh, where is my wireframe maybe? There you go. You thought you could escape. You cannot escape. And then one more. The reason that I need to create each and every one of them separately is because, again, remember, all of them are going to have the same final height, but all of them are going to be at different heights for these light fixtures elements. Okay, so I'm going to say yes. And now we're going to go back to our front view. And this is why we did them separately, because now I can go and say all of you are going to align to that top, but then each of you is going to align to your specific flower. So I'm going to come here and say, let me see if I can find I'm going to bring it. Oh, you know what? I don't need to align it to a reference plane. I can just put it, I can do it manually because we're not changing the height of the lights themselves. Although, let's see. I want to be able to change the height. So like this can move. And when these move, see, these guys move, these guys stay, and this guy's not moving. So you know what? We are going to need to do some stuff. I'm going to create a measurement that measures from here to here, and it's locked. And then from here to here, and then that's locked. And what's going to happen is that when I move, yes, that's what we want. Beautiful. But I still need to solve the rods because the rods are not aligned and locked to anything. The problem here is that if I align them to this line here, if you remember, that is your light source. So what's going to happen is that they are a solid geometry that will obscure your light source. So what I need to do is I need to find any other reference, there you go, that is geometry and is not a light source. So see, now that I put it to that, look what's going to happen. Because that geometry is already locked, when I move this guy, remove constraints, it's double constraining. There's a couple solutions that I can try here. One of them is going to be reference planes, which I hate having to create unnecessary reference planes, but it looks here like they will be necessary. So I'm just going to create a reference plane basically where I want my rods to end, so to speak. And I'm just going to lock those reference planes. So I can go distance from this to this, lock, from this to this, lock, and then from here to here, lock. And now let's see if this is going to work. Locked, align and lock, align and lock. Okay, let's test the whole thing. So the whole thing should move with a single reference plane. And it does. Amazing. All right, almost done. Now we need to address a couple of things. So number one, I'm going to bring this lighting fixture into a project so you can see how it behaves. So to do that, I'm going to go to File and I'm going to Save As, and this is going to be my Chartreuse Bloom lighting fixture. Chartreuse Bloom, that's the bulb and this guy. So I'm going to overwrite that. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to load it into my project. So I'm going to start a new project, and I'm just going to go with like a default yes. Okay. And usually what I'm doing is that when I create lighting fixtures, I like to make them, bring them into like an isolated project that is literally just 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling, just so I can see how they behave. Like this is like, if they work well, then I can bring them into my project and I can see how they interact with all of my materials and the rest of my geometry. But in the beginning, I just want to see if it behaves the way that it should. So I also like to create a camera because again, we're going to need to render it. And I want to see it behave like naturally. Okay, that's fine. And now I am going to bring my lighting fixture. So we're going to come here. We're going to go to my Chartreuse Bloom. Yes. And I'm going to load it into my project. Okay. And I'm just, ooh, look at her. Again, those 4 little petals, God damn it, Revit, why do you have to be so difficult? That's fine. I'm going to pretend that I wanted them to be like that. And I'm going to go to my 3D view. Look at them. See? So what I like about this is that now I have 2 parameters that I should be able to control. So one of them is going to be like the height from my reference level. So by default, it's just going to put it whatever it was in the project. But if I want to, I should be able to adjust this. So if I say that I want it to be 5 feet from the floor, I think that's adding to the, let's go to the 3D view. Yeah, that's putting it beyond. So what you can do is once you've done this, you can go to the original family and you can drop that reference plane. Oops, not this one. We have a lot of views. Let me get rid of this one. And then we're going to come back here. This is the one that I wanted to do. So I can actually come here to my front view and I can say that like this height by default, 1000 is fine. So let's say that I'm going to make this like 1 inch. just sits like really, really close to the floor. And what's going to happen is that that is going to actually allow me to adjust the height of my lighting fixture. So if I do that and I overwrite, you're going to see that this guy should drop. Oh no, it just went back. If I go to that's the front view. If I go back to my camera view, I think I have it here. There's my lighting fixture. And again, I can just like move it down, whatever I want. What I do care about is the fact that I can grab those rods and I should be able to adjust like their height. So see like how they go really, really far. So I should be able to come here and adjust that final height. So let's say, where is that parameter? Oh, I didn't. No, I did do a parameter. Where is my ceiling height? I cannot see it here. Did I not create that parameter? If I go to front, ceiling height, I do have it. Why is it not visible? Ceiling height. Is it because it's a type instance per? Oh, of course, it's because it's an instance parameter, silly. So instance parameters are not going to show up here. They're going to show up here. There it is, ceiling height. So if I make this maybe 5, and then there you go. See, it's bringing it. So again, I still need to adjust because it's still measuring from the top. See, so if I bring this to 0, let's say, there you go. Okay, I don't want it to be at 0. Let's say that we want it to be 4 feet. There you go. And then what I can do is it's going to be 4 feet plus whatever we have here. If I would have an elevation, I can probably drag it down, but let's say 4, and there you go. Beautiful. Now, again, your lighting fixtures, you're really going to see what's going on once you render them. So let's do exactly that. I'm going to draw this in a little bit. We're going to open our rendering options. We're going to leave it on draft. We're going to make sure that we set up artificial only, especially when I'm testing light. I want to make sure that there's no sunlight to take away from the power of the light so I can see if the light is working or not. And we're going to hit the render button. Ooh, isn't that pretty? Now, again, I still need to work with the properties of the materials. I have not touched on those, but you can see that the light is working. Now, this is the problem that we need to address. Let's say that I don't like the light to be so yellow. Let's say that I want it to be like a little bit colder because it's like in the reference, you can see that it's a little bit like greenish, bluish. So let's say that I'm going to come here to my initial color and I'm going to change this to like 5,000. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click apply. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to render and render again. So this is where we're going to see a big problem, which is that none of them have changed. And the reason for this is because the parameters that you are changing here are not for these guys, but they are for the single lonely guy that we have over here, which is a problem because these are the guys that we see and these are the guys that we want to actually change. So we need to address two things. And in fact, another problem that you can't quite see in that lighting fixture because it's kind of bright, but this guy should not be visible at all because this guy doesn't belong to any lighting fixture. The problem is that in Revit, you cannot delete it. I'm pressing the delete key, nothing is happening. So what we need to do is two things. Number one, we need to get rid of this guy, so like make it invisible, so to speak. But we also need to make it so the light sources that we have here respond to the parameters of this light source here. And the way that we're going to do that is by linking the parameters of the nested family. So the way that we do that is we're going to select one of them. They're all the same, so I don't have to select all of them. I just need to select one of them. And I'm going to go to edit type. And all the way here at the bottom, for the photometrics, so this is the parameters that manage the properties of the light source, you're going to see that here we have a button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link them to the existing parameters of this lighting fixture. So I'm going to choose my intensity, and I'm going to choose this initial color here. And then I'm going to go apply, and I'm going to go OK. So that has taken care of half of the problem, which is the fact that the lighting fixtures were not, like I wasn't able to control them. The other half of the problem is getting rid of this guy. Now, that one is super easy to solve because all I have to do is, if you remember, if I put this guy inside geometry, what's going to happen? Oh, I don't want to do that. Control Z. If I put this guy inside geometry, what's going to happen is that it's not going to be visible. So all I really need to do is bring it inside of my project. I should be able, you know what? I should be able to ungroup this height. Let me see. Is it going to be this guy? Cancel. I should be able to unlock it If not, I can try to put it inside here, but that might make it, yeah, the light source is inside. That might make it so this light in particular is a little bit too bright because basically we have two of them inside the same space. But the problem here is that unless I lock everything again, which sounds like such a, well, you know what, we might have to do that. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. So let's do that. So I'm gonna, these are fine. I don't think I need to unlock any of these. But let's see if we can unlock this one. Nope, still connected. Let's see if I can unlock this one. Can't unlock alignment from family template. Yeah, because this is the placement one. No, you know what? Let's just make it a double. The other thing that I could do is create like a fake bulb. So let's say that I can go back to the original bulb family and make it just a generic. So actually, let me demonstrate. So I'm going to leave this guy outside. It's going to be a little bit more work, but that's fine. So what we're going to do is we can go to the original bulb family. So let's say this, oh, no, not that. There you go. Double click to edit this guy. Oh, God damn it, cancel. Let's open it directly. Open. I said open. Oh, here it is. Bulb. There you go. I'm going to open this guy. And what I can do is simply go here to the family category and parameters. Oh, I don't even have to go there. I can just come here where it says light source, check that off, and that's going to make it so this guy doesn't have a light source. I'm going to come here, save as, family, and I'm going to call this guy bulb less, so it doesn't have a bulb. And I'm going to load it into my nested family, load it into my chartreuse blossom, and I'm just going to replace. So I'm going to have the light source of the original light fixture family with these bulbless element. So I'm going to put it on the top view, let's say, component, and that's going to be my, that's okay, bulbless. And again, I'm just going to place it here for the time being. That's fine. It's just telling me that it's not visible. That's okay. That's my cable. That's fine. And what I can do is go back to my 3D view of this. There we go. And now I can say we're going to align. Is there anything for me to align here? No, I'm going to align it manually, whatever. Yeah. Oh, so now you are picking up on the reference. Great. Let's put it there. Sure. And now if I go to my front view, where are you? There you are. I'm going to align this reference plane to, I think it was like some line over there. There we go. And now I can bring this guy into this reference there, and there is locked. Again, that message is just telling you that it's inside geometry. That's fine. But what should happen now is that if I move this guy, oops. Oh, right, because we were using the reference. I locked it to the wrong thing. This guy is going to be aligned to there. That's remove constraints. And then let's test that out. Yeah, now it's working. Amazing, fantastic. So what's going to happen now is because these lighting elements have been linked to this one source that comes with the family, all three of them are going to be able to change through the same parameters. So it's going to make it so they all behave like they are one. See? So that is one way that you can do it. Create a copy of these guys that doesn't actually have a light source, and then make that the house of the original light source that comes with this family. So we're going to save, we're going to load it into our project. And what's going to happen now is that now we can start playing with this family and we can start playing with the materials. So let's test it out one more time to see how it's going to behave. Well, 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 would you look at that? It is rendering exactly the way that we want it. Awesome. So with that out of the way, we can now start working with the materials, because you can see that I have that like petal element there, but it's not doing anything at all for me. The green is also not doing much, like nobody's doing anything. So we need to edit these materials ASAP. So the easiest way to edit my materials is going to be go to manage. And I'm going to start with this green here, just because it's going to be the easiest part. So we said it was like green something something. Green. Yes, this guy. So for the materials, so this is the one thing that I don't really love about AEC materials, but like we're just going to run with it. And it's the fact that you don't actually have a lot of customization options with some of these templates. So for example, with this one, absorption distance, I think might be the equivalent of like translucency. Let me see. what I want here, index of refraction. So index of refraction is how distorted the light is. Right now it's set up to custom. I can leave it there, that's fine. Maybe we play with roughness. So basically what I want is this glass to look like it's sandblasted, because it's not about the glass not being transparent. It's about the glass being like rough on the edges, so to speak. So I think roughness might be the setting, but it's not really showing here. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so I think roughness is gonna do it for me. Mm, God dang it. I want this to be a little bit like thicker. And it's not highlights, definitely. So I'm gonna reduce, probably I can go halfway through for the roughness, something like that. And I think it's gonna be the absorption distance. But I'm not sure how much I'm gonna be able to play with this. So right now it's set up to like 1 inch and something. So what happens if I make that like 6 inches? This is the part that is tricky. And usually when it comes to rendering, I rather work with something like Enscape or V-Ray or Twinmotion to render my Revit renderings, because the default Revit rendering is not the greatest, to be honest with you. Okay, yeah. All right, so that is what makes it. So what if we make it half an inch? Will that make it, like, I don't want it to be solid, but I want it to have a little bit of that opacity. So I like these settings way more, much more when I'm working, yeah, something kind of like that. And then I just want it to be much lighter than. These settings are much more understandable and much more manageable with other software. Again, Enscape, Twinmotion, V-Ray, some of the basic ones, but I'm just gonna roll with the options that I have here, okay? So, sure, let's say that that is the, yeah, you know what, that's a decent green. So the next material is gonna be the petal one. We are going to go next to that material, and if you remember, we just created a solid shape, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a cutout map to basically create those petal shapes. So the way that we can do that, let me see if I can be sneaky and just find the texture already ready to go on the internet. If not, then I can quickly go ahead and Photoshop. I'm just gonna come here and search for stripe pattern, black, white. That's it. That should work no matter what. And I can search for some lines that are a little bit more wiggly or a little bit more like whatever, because it clearly doesn't matter. So let's say we're gonna use something like, oh, it has that crayon. Let's use something like just some regular stripes. Yeah. Save image. And I'm gonna put it on my desktop. It's a JPEG, perfect, I can use it. And we're just gonna come back here. Yeah, I don't know why it's causing that issue, it shouldn't. We're gonna let it finish rendering, and I will be back when it's done, because if I try to stop it, my computer may crash, and I do not wanna have to do all of this again. So we're gonna give it a break, and we're gonna let the computer finish whatever it's going through, okay? Okay, yeah, so as you can see, like it is picking up on the petal. It's just deciding not to do it here for some reason and then not to do it in some other areas. Again, this is like materials in Revit are not my favorite thing to work with, because they have a very hard time understanding what they are supposed to do. And I do not know why. So, you know, I just roll with the punches. So this is going to be this image here instead. So this should just make it much easier for Revit to understand what I'm asking it to do. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to significantly increase my transparency here. We're going to apply, and I'm actually going to search for these glass green here. And I'm going to change this material as well, because I did not like the glass is too invisible, basically. So I'm going to do the same trick. And again, I usually do this because I like the Revit materials that have all of the properties. I don't like the Revit materials that have just a couple of settings. I find them like very limiting to work with. So let's say it's going to be something like this, and it's going to have a decent amount of glossiness, reflectivity, and then transparency. I'm going to come here and make this guy a sphere again, just because it's easier to preview it that way. And for my transparency, I am going to make it quite transparent, and also, well, maybe less transparent and more the refraction of glass and a little bit of translucency. Okay, so that's looking better already. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. That's looking a little bit more like what we had in the reference image. Okay, so let's see. Why is it still? Yeah, there's something weird that is like not cutting through. Not sure why, to be entirely honest. I might have to like play with that for a little bit. But let's see how this is going to behave when it renders. Ooh, very interesting. Probably need to make it much more. Yeah. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Worst case scenario, I could go back and do the same void trick that I did with the top. I could do it here with the bottom, but I really hate the idea of having to do that because it's so much more complication for nothing. But yeah, there seems to be some glitching there with the texture. I wonder if it has to do with the quality, the render quality. Let me see. If we go here, materials, and there is no overlapping. Does it have any repeat? Yeah, it is repeating vertically and horizontally. Not sure why it's deciding to do that, to be honest with you. Interesting. I'm gonna make the line, I'm gonna make the material overall much more translucent. I can actually load the same map that I'm using for the lights and for the stripes, sorry. Yeah, maybe that will help a little bit. Oh, because the cutouts are still I'm a silly goose. These do not get a map remove. That's why. Remove. I don't want to use an image here. Slider. There you go. This is what I'm supposed to be changing. Oh, no wonder it wasn't working. I wasn't changing anything. Okay, let's bring this guy in. Okay, now it should work. There we go. Apply OK. That's looking better. It's still doing a weird little shifting, but at least it's behaving much more naturally. Oh my God. I was going crazy there for a second. So let's render here medium. Yeah, it's still doing like a weird shifting effect. That's super strange. I'm not sure why Revit is choosing to do that, but go for it, boss. But as you can see, what it's doing now, it's that it's like you have that layer of light bulb and then you have that layer of the petals. Oh no, it's rendering fun. I have no idea what's going on. Revit is doing Revit stuff. It might look perfectly fine in like Enscape or Twinmotion. I do not understand why Revit is choosing to render it this way. But that's it. That's basically all you need to do here. Now, if you want to soften these shadows, keep in mind that there's two ways that you can do it. One is that you can make the glass materials a lot more transparent and translucent, so that way they do not cast such strong shadows. The other thing that you can do is you can bring more complementary lighting that is going to basically compensate for the harsh shadows that this is generating. But that's basically how you can make this lighting fixture here. Again, the more time you spend, the more details you can generate, but this is the gist of it. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a share. And if not, well, then I will see you when I see you. Have a good one. Bye.